Hey Tom, so in part one we talked about your background, which has been in bookmaking. Have all these experiences prepared you for setting up a venture capital fund, which I believe Waterhouse VC is?
Yeah, look, it has. I think that what is really interesting about what we're doing with Waterhouse VC is that we're sticking to the one industry we know. I don't know anything about mining, banking, of insurance. I don't know anything about these other industries, but I know I've been in the wagering, gaming, gambling sector for the last 20 years. You know, I live and breathe it. The family's been in it over 100 years. And so I only stick to the one area that I know, and the area that I think that I've got a unique insight from my time, especially at William Hill and also starting TomWaterhouse.com, is in the technology providers to the gambling industry. So a normal analyst from, let's say, one of the big banks, they could probably analyze Ladbrokes, Caesars, MGM, FanDuel, the same lines of the P&L. You know, you're looking at turnover, gross profit, marketing expense, headcount expense, capital expenditure. You've got the same lines of the P&L across all these businesses. But how does an analyst at one of these big banks understand who is the best technology for board providers, for on-course bookies, or for fixed odds pricing for horse racing, or the best voice betting app, or the best text messaging app, or any provider of any technology into the gambling operators? And we had in our product roadmap at William Hill over 200 different products trying to get into the William Hill ecosystem. And we had to spend a lot of time analyzing that technology. Is it going to give a certain amount of revenue uplift to William Hill? How hard would it be to integrate into the business? And so that was unique insight. And I understand the dynamics of what bookmaking is and what bookmakers are looking for to try and increase their turnover and increase their revenue. So look, I think we've got something special as a VC because we stick to our knitting. We do one thing and that's where our edge is. And obviously I'm putting my money where my mouth is because I've invested heavily into the fund.
So in layman's terms, for people that don't understand, is it basically a case of you picking companies to invest in, picking winners, people invest in you, and then they reap the benefits when their share prices go up? Is that how it works?
Yeah, correct. So we ultimately, over the next 10 years, want to be a significant shareholder, long-term shareholder in all the key suppliers to the gambling industry. So for us, we want to find what is the best technology, what is the best technology, how do we invest in it at a reasonable price, and then how do we ensure that that technology is in all of the operators, because it's obviously the best, and being part of the journey with that operator, because once a great piece of technology gets integrated into these large operators, the William Hills, the Ladbrokes, etc., well, they're incredibly sticky because once they're in there, they've got into the ecosystem and they become a key component or core component for that bookmaking business to operate. And so yeah, we want to be long-term holders of the key suppliers, and that's what we really do. And now our team, we've got a great team of engineers that I've worked with for a long period of time that spend a lot of time analyzing what is the best technology, what are the best suppliers, and yeah, it's just been interesting because I'm in the industry that I know and that I love, but it's a slightly different journey to being a bookie and to being a corporate CEO, and yeah, I'm really enjoying this difference. This last 3 years has been so interesting and also rewarding.
Okay, so there must be a lot of businesses out there that fall into the wider criteria that you're looking for. So what sort of individual characteristics must they have, and what are the most important things you're looking for before you take these companies on under your umbrella, or to invest in them?
Yeah, so we only go into businesses that are generating revenue, and it's not because there's not technology businesses that have great technology. It's just the biggest risk is execution risk. So someone comes to us with an amazing technology, but unless they've got a contract and they've got money coming in the door, we go, look, it's too early in your journey for us to invest. So we want to be in businesses that have got a true proven track record of actually got winning contracts and their technology is actually operating in an existing operator. And we want to go into what are the pain points for businesses? What's a pain point for Star Sports? What's a pain point for Paddy Power? At the moment, a pain point for a US operators is it's costing a fortune to get customers there. And compared to how much it costs, the value per player is low. So what's the technology that solves that? Well, affiliate businesses, that's an interesting area because they supply generally lower cost acquisition or do it on a revenue share style agreement. So what are the types of affiliate or content businesses that might be interesting in the US? How do we improve value per player? So at the moment, US sports, it's a very low margin product. And also there's a big product gap throughout the year. So how do they increase margin? Well, we think fixed odds horse racing, and horse racing has a role to play in the US ecosystem. So what a great technology and what a data providers in this space. We've invested in a business called BetMakers. We think that has a huge role to play in the industry. There's a big gap in the season in the US. So the NFL only runs for a certain period of the season. There's a big gap in the NBA. What can be product filler for the rest of the season? Well, we think gaming has a big role to play, like Evolution's the best live dealer in the industry. Very interesting business. We think eSports, which has been approved in the US in 4 states, we think that will roll out. And so we're looking into eSports fixed odds suppliers. We think that has a role. So what are the pain points for operators? What are the suppliers that can solve those pain points? And which are the best of those suppliers? Because there's a dozen or so eSports fixed odds data suppliers. There's plenty of businesses that supply racing data. There's also plenty of live dealer suppliers. But which ones are the best? Which ones do we think will give the best value per player to the operators? And which ones have got the longest runway that we can be long-term investors in? And that's basically how we think about it.
Okay, and you've recorded a strong performance so far. Could you highlight some of the sort of biggest success stories to date?
Yeah, so some of our investments that have been big success stories, obviously BetMakers, what the management team and the CEO and board have been able to achieve there is incredible. You know, they've taken an Australian-centric business that had supplied data and was basically the middleman in the racing ecosystem between bookmakers and the racing bodies. They've been able to expand that to really a global outfit. You know, they've got a business that's grown from sort of 10 million in revenue to now 80 plus 100 million in revenue, like broad figures. And they've got 15-year agreements with New Jersey to supply fixed odds racing data. They've got agreements in the UK, obviously agreements in Australia. So that's been an amazing business in the sense of what the management team has been able to achieve with that business. You look at, we had a very nice exit with Playtech when they had that offer to buy the company from Aristocrat. Another business called Aspire, which has done very well. But again, for us, we're long-term investors, and for us, we think if we can find the best suppliers in an industry that you've got the largest economic nation in the world that suddenly allowed in 2018 online sports betting, and you've now got half the country that's opened up to online sports betting. And we believe that this is a 20-year journey. And so for us, we just want to go into find the best suppliers, invest in them, and be long-term holders in them, and hopefully be able to generate good return.
Okay, it's interesting you mentioned eSports earlier. I've been doing these interviews for about 5 years now. They've been talked about in that time. But in the UK, I think we're yet to see a massive sort of spike in them. Is there anything else that you're also excited about in the gaming and betting industries?
Yeah, I think that you make a really good point there, Simon, in that also in Australia that there was a very low cost per acquisition for customers in esports, but the value per player was also very low. So it didn't make sense to go from traditional like English Premier League marketing or horse racing marketing to go after the esports segment. I think what's interesting about esports is that it's a significantly growing industry. Like I think League of Legends is the second most watched sport in China, and I've been to like the Dota 2 championships in Shanghai, and it's like you're going to Manchester United versus Manchester City game. You know, it's out of control in terms of the activity there. But the thing that I think is interesting from a betting proposition and and an acquisition point of view, if in the US esports takes off, is it's similar to horse racing. It's such a lovely product filler where they need more product, especially on content, especially in the states that haven't legalized iGaming. So I think it's a growing segment, and I think over time the esports market will mature and become higher value. But I also think in the US it's a very different proposition to the UK, because you've got wall-to-wall product in the UK. You've got unlimited football matches, which are great margin product. You've got a stack of horse racing, and you've got gaming approved here. So I think the dynamics are slightly different in the US. And to your other question about what else are we looking at, I think what's interesting in Australia and the UK, the player journey is defined. It's clear people want to bet in the same way they've been betting the last decade. You have drop-down boxes, you go to the markets, everyone's basically going, it may not be the easiest way to bet, but I'm used to betting this way. And everyone, or most people, they're creatures of habit, and they don't want massive changes in the user experience and user journey. The US is different. In the US, you've seen all these states just open up. And so we're looking similar to like people used to have search with Yahoo with drop-down boxes, where Google is now, you either type what you're searching for or you say it. We think that betting and the way people bet could be very different in the US than what it is in the UK and Australia. And so we've gone into businesses such as VoxBet, which provide a text message and voice betting solution. And we're looking at ways that, and there's another business we're talking with at the moment that's very different in the way that a user places a bet. And we think that to really change the way that someone bets and make it a lot more intuitive and a lot easier is definitely a possibility. And we're sort of staking bets in suppliers in that area to hopefully find something that takes off, is able to win contracts with the largest operators in the US, and hopefully customers enjoy that way of betting, and it really takes off.